Assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. It's your brother Malcolm Flex TV doing this late night video, you know what I mean? Because you know your brother got to take care of some business for the next couple days. And I don't know when the next time I will be going live exactly. So, you know, I had to jump off of another live listening to, the battle of the sexes, between the brothers and the sisters, man. It's just, man, wow. The world needs more MGT out here in this world. We need to make some more MGTs. Because the stuff that I'm hearing from these lost found sisters, man. I mean, these sisters, man, don't even wanna cook for a good man. Let alone he ain't gotta just be a messed up man. They don't even want to cook for a good brother. So I mean, man, just listening to the conversations, man, is just like wow, just mind blowing, man. But this is a late one. We going in tonight. I know many of my subscribers and my usual viewers are asleep. So inshallah, they'll be able to see this video when they wake up in the morning. But yeah, I wanted to do this video because I said that I would do it over. I said I would do it again for the viewers. Okay, so I wanted to go over the evidence. Okay, I wanted to break it down in segments, and I wanted to deal with the tribe of Shabazz and the maternal lineage. Maternal meaning dealing with our mother's bloodline, going all the way up to the mitochondrial Eve. Okay, the Eve of this particular haplogroup called LE. Right, over in Africa, right? Because according to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that there was a tribe that was in that area 50,000 years ago, right? Led by a scientist by the name of Shabazz, okay? And while over there, this individual had left civilization. He left civilization. These were civilized people. And he took his people and his family and they went into the jungles of Africa or Central Africa. Okay? And that's when they took on different physical characteristics according to Master Muhammad and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So in this video, this is part 3 because I wanted to break it up in segments to give the brothers and sisters who are also studying this topic and keeping up with this topic the opportunity to retain it. So I wanted to make it in smaller parts, as you will. Right? So I will be going into the information connecting us to this people. I'm going to identify who these people are, and then I'm going to show you the direct link from them to us all the way to now. Okay? All praises is due to Allah. Okay? So, I'm going to share my screen with you all. And we're going to tackle this topic. This has been a very important topic in the conscious community because, there are many disbelievers in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and who are very critical, which is okay. Everybody has the right to be critical and criticize. Okay, that's okay. That's totally fine, and it is our duty, who are followers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to prove these teachings to be right and exact, prove these teachings to be true. That is our duty. You know what I mean? As followers of these wonderful and great men. And that's why I intend to do tonight. Is not going to be a long, drawn out process, inshallah. But we will do some reading of some information, some documents from some scientists, okay, vindicating the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen, okay, and we're gonna read a little bit, so you all can have an understanding of who these individuals are, where they came from, where they gone. Now, I will say this. I'm going to give my disclaimer. As I don't consider myself a scholar, but I try to do my best to do some type of scholarly work. Okay? And in saying that, I'm going to say that I don't necessarily agree with 100% of the documents that I'm going to present. There are certain aspects that I don't agree 100% with, because it's not in direct harmony with what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. But there are a lot of great points that are in these documents that can validate what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. Okay? Now, let me give y'all a kind of a basic understanding. Okay? So what I did was I had to look and see what people were in these areas and locations in the Nile Valley region of Egypt and Arabia and even Eurasia. All in that land was the Holy Land in ancient times. And I had to find through DNA what peoples were in these locations around 50,000 years ago. Around that time period. Okay, I have some other documents. I may have to find them as well, but I'm gonna just go with what I got for right now. Okay, because they have people going into Africa around 70,000 years ago, according to scholars. And I also found articles where they had people going back into Africa around 45,000 to 50,000 years ago. But the ones that I found around 70,000 years ago still have some good information. And I'm going to read some of it. Okay, this one is BMC Evolutionary Biology. Hope y'all can see my screen. Carriers of mitochondrial DNA macrohaplogroup L3, basal. Basal means base or foundation or the origin. You know what I mean? That's what basal stands for. Carriers of mitochondrial DNA macrohaplogroup L3, basal lineages migrated back to Africa from Asia around 70,000 years ago, right? So what they saying is that there was a peace to you, brother Josh Mason. Send me the link to that website that you were talking about as well. They're saying that there was a group that migrated back to Africa from Asia. So if they migrated back from Africa, then that means that they originated there, correct? But let me read it. give y'all a kind of understanding. Background, abstract, the background. The main unequivocal conclusion after 3 decades of phylogeographic mitochondrial DNA studies is the African origin of all extant modern humans. In addition, a southern coastal route has been argued for to explain the Eurasian colonization of these African pioneers. Based on the age of macrohaplogroup L3, from which all maternal Eurasian and the majority of African lineages originated, the Out of Africa event has been dated around 60 to 70,000 years ago. On the opposite side, we have proposed a northern route through Central Asia across the Levant for that expansion, and consistent with the fossil record, we have dated it around 125,000 years ago. To help bridge differences between the molecular and fossil record ages, in this article we assess the possibility that mitochondrial DNA haplogroup L3 matured in Eurasia and returned to Africa as basal L3 lineages around 70,000 years ago. So what are they saying? I'm going to break it down in layman terms for you. So what they saying is, okay, that, and I'm going to go to other articles as well, between 60,000 to 125,000 years ago, that this particular mitochondrial macro haplogroup, okay, the woman's lineage, L3, had originated in Africa, because this is an African haplogroup. They had originated in Africa, and they're saying that they had taken 2 routes out of Africa. They took a southern route across I can't think of the name of it. I'm going to find it in a second. But the bridge from Africa to Arabia, and then they made their way in. They kept going so far east that they made their way into Eurasia, like Turkey, Persia, and all that area. And then there was another group, the same group that was a part of the same family, the L3 family. They left, okay, and they took the northern route through the Nile Valley, Egypt, through the Levant, and so forth. Okay, so let me continue reading. I'm giving you a breakdown of what that paragraph is saying. And it says results. The coalescence ages of all Eurasian M and N haplogroups and African L3 lineages, both around 71,000 years ago, are not significantly different. Right? The M and N haplogroups are the children, per se, of the L3 haplogroup. M and N are children of the L3 haplogroup. And I have a video that I can find a little bit later, but there are Caucasians, many Caucasians are a part of the N haplogroup, and when they go and take their DNA test, they learn that they come from the L3 lineage. So they learn that they have African lineage when they take DNA tests, because the L3 are the mothers of the M and N haplogroups. Basically, the mothers that gave birth to everybody on the globe. This particular haplogroup, this mitochondrial DNA haplogroup L3, okay, birth everybody that is non-African. But let me continue reading, because this stuff is deep. Just thinking about that, just this one particular haplogroup, scientists are saying gave birth to every other group that is non-African. Think about that. and think about the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Right? Okay, the coalescence ages of all Eurasian MN and African L3 lineages, both around 71,000 years ago, are not significantly different. The oldest M and N Eurasian clades are found in southern East Asia, instead near of Africa, as expected by the southern route hypothesis. The split of the Y chromosome composite DE haplogroup is very similar to the age of the mitochondrial DNA L3, right? And that's significant. Now, the reason why this sentence is significant, I'll read it again. The split of the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is the man's chromosome, the man's lineage. Okay, only the Y chromosome is passed down from father to son, right? Now, and it says the split of the Y chromosome composite DE haplogroup is very similar to the age of mitochondrial DNA L3. And the reason why it is significant is because, okay, we know that the Y chromosome haplogroup E, many African Americans, so-called African Americans, have or are part of this haplogroup E, right? E1B1A, E1B1B, right? Well, what they saying? Well, wait, hold on, real quick. So we know that haplogroup E has always been with mitochondrial DNA L3, right? The Y chromosome Adam was always with his mitochondrial DNA Eve. Now, according to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right, Shabazz separated from the rest of the pre-Shabazz people, or the scientists, and took his people and went into Central Africa, or went into the jungles of Africa, right? He split with his brothers, right? And left with his woman and his family. So when it says right here, the split of the Y chromosome composite DE, right, haplogroup is very similar to the age of mitochondrial DNA L3, right? So 50,000 years ago, there was a split between two peoples. Okay? They really the same people, but it was a split between these people. Right? That's why it's significant, because the scientists is telling you that these two Y chromosome composite groups had at one point split with one another. They were once together and then they split. And then we know that the haplogroup E, I'm gonna read it. I don't want to talk y'all to death because we ain't got all night. Okay, the split of the Y chromosome composite DE haplogroup is very similar to the age of mitochondrial DNA L3. And Eurasian origin and back migration to Africa has been proposed for the African Y chromosome haplogroup E, right? I'm going to repeat it again. A Eurasian origin and back migration to Africa has been proposed for the African Y chromosome haplogroup E, right? So it's telling you that there was, the Y chromosome haplogroup E. Remember, Y chromosome is passed down from father to son. This is the paternal lineage, right? And what they're saying is that these people had split with another people and went into Africa, right? With their women, with his woman. Shabazz went with his woman and his family. Inside Africa, frequency distributions of maternal L3 and paternal E lineages are positively correlated. This correlation is not fully explained by geographic or ethnic affinities, Why? Because they don't have the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? But we gotta let the DNA tell the story and confirm what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching. The DNA is talking to us. Our ancestors are talking to us through our DNA. Okay? See, when we understand the words of wisdom that was given us by Master Fard Muhammad, then we can actually discern what's actually being said by scientists. All right, so let me continue reading. This correlation rather seems to be the result of a joint and global replacement of the old autochthonous male and female African lineages by the new Eurasian incomers. Okay, so again, you have a people who originated in Africa. One day they decided to go up and go east, right? Some of them stayed in Arabia and the Nile Valley, Egypt, and some even ventured out a little bit further in Eurasia, like Persia, Turkey, Iraq, like Mesopotamia, and matured there, lived there for a few thousand years, and matured there, and eventually came back, right, and went in, to Africa, right? Right? So, because the L3 spread and expanded from Egypt through Arabia all the way to Eurasia. That particular lineage spread all the way to Eurasia. Okay? And it says conclusions. These results are congruent with the model proposing an out-of-Africa migration into Asia following a northern route of early anatomically modern humans carrying pre-L3 mitochondrial DNA lineages around 125,000 years ago. Subsequent diversification of pre-L3 into the basal lineages of L3, a return to Africa of Eurasian fully modern humans around 70,000 years ago. Right? So they close to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, but it's not exactly on the marker of a 50,000 years ago. But the scientists are close. The messenger, Master Muhammad, made many claims, and scientists got closer and closer to exactly what he said. Okay, but let me continue. A return to Africa of Eurasian, fully modern humans around 70,000 years ago, carrying the basal L3 lineages and the subsequent diversification of Eurasian remaining L3 lineages into the M and N lineages in the outside of Africa context, and the second Eurasian global expansion by 60,000 years ago, most probably out of Southeast Asia. Climatic conditions and the presence of Neanderthals and other hominins might have played significant roles in these human movements. Moreover, recent studies based on ancient DNA and whole genome sequencing are also compatible with this hypothesis. Okay? Moving along. So, I just read that, right? I just read that. I found there's another article on it as well. But that article was by Communicative and Integrative Biology. No, not that one, excuse me. That one was by, so you can look it up yourself, BMC Evolutionary Biology, titled Carriers of Mitochondrial DNA, Macrohaplogroup L3, Basal Lineages Migrated Back to Africa from Asia around 70,000 years ago, by Vicente M. Cabrera, Patricia Marrero, Khaled K. Abu Amero and Jose M. Laruga. Right? So this isn't my work, but this is work that I'm reading from other people. Peace to Dr. Marole, Josh Mason, Annette Leslie. Peace to y'all, family. Hope y'all enjoying it. So I had to pull up a map. I wanted to pull up a map as well, right? So I hope y'all can see the map. And I'm going to read the caption as well. Okay? Now here's a map, right? I got other maps as well. Here's a map, and when you look at the map and you look on where my arrow is on the Horn of Africa, when you look at where my arrow is at the Horn of Africa, on this map you have L3 on the Horn, but you see them take a southern route with the L6 and a northern route, right? Going up into Egypt to Arabia through there. This is pre-L3 all the way to Eurasia, making it to India, right? And the caption at the bottom says, geographic origin and dispersion of mitochondrial L haplogroups, a sequential expansion of L haplogroups inside Africa and exit of the L3 precursor to Eurasia. Return to Africa and expand. Okay, this is A, right? This is map A. Now I'm gonna show you map B. Now when you look at map B says, the caption says, return to Africa and expansion to Asia of basal L3 lineages, right? This is the mother. This is the mother side, right? The mitochondrial DNA is passed down from mother to daughter, right? It says return to Africa and expansion to Asia of basal L3 lineages with subsequent differentiation in both continents. Okay, so when you look at the map, you can see that these people, when you look at my arrow, and you can see that when these people, they was in the Horn of Africa and they left, right? But they were always up in there. I'm gonna throw this disclaimer. They were always in like Egypt and Arabia, and they spread all the way as far as to Eurasia, at least as far as India. But some even kept going further east. Some of them just kept going east. But this particular group ended up coming back, and when they came back, they began to spread through Africa. That's why you have L3K, L3BD, L3CEF. You got all these different L3 macro haplogroups spreading back throughout Asia, Africa. Okay, just as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught his followers, I'm showing you the DNA footprints of our ancestors. I'm showing y'all the DNA footprints of our ancestors. Okay? And I also got other maps as well. Let me see if I can find them. Okay, here's one. Here's one where you got the L3 DNA gene in Arabia, and you have the L3 DNA in North Africa. Hold on. Here's another one. Here's a family tree. Break it down a little bit. Here's a family tree. Now, at the top, you have the mitochondrial family tree. You have the Eve, right? Daughter 1 through 10. And you have daughter 2, right? Daughter 2 are a part of the L branch. You have L1 and L2 who grew up in sub-Saharan Africa. And then you have L3. We focus on the L3. L3 grew up in sub-Saharan, Central, and East Africa. Again, sub-Saharan, Central, and East Africa. These are the places that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that these people were. The Nile Valley, Egypt, Arabia. They might have originated before they left and came back. They might have originated on the Horn of Africa. Okay, and they gave birth to these babies right here, mitochondrial DNA M and N. Okay, now let's move on, cause I got another one that's fire I wanted to show y'all. Let me see if I can find it. Again, you have the L3 basal lineage over here in East Africa. I'm just showing y'all the maps. I'm showing y'all the actual DNA footprint of where these DNAs were located. L3, you can see all in these areas, some in Central Africa. Okay, I'm showing y'all. Walaikum salam, Brother Devon. I got to show y'all the DNA footprint of where these people were located. To give y'all an understanding and an idea of what we dealing with. Here's another chart, okay? And here's another chart, mitochondrial DNA haplogroups. In the gray, where you see my arrow is the African American, right? And you can see that the L3, we have a lot of L3 DNA in us, so-called African Americans. We have many admixtures between not just L3. Peace to you, Slick Shabazz. We don't just only have L3. We have L1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have all that, but the biggest portion of mitochondrial DNA haplogroup is L3, right? But I'm gonna show you these people. I found some more information on this particular haplogroup that kind of shook me up last night. I'm gonna show y'all. Okay, I'm just going through the genetic footprint on the map to show y'all exactly what these biologists and these scientists are saying. Okay, I gotta show y'all this stuff because I think it's relevant to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Right? So I'm showing y'all on the map. Okay, on this particular map, you got L3 in Arabia. So you have different biologists and scientists saying different things. Okay, I'm just going through some maps, but I'm about to read another article right quick that I found very interesting last night that I wanted to share with y'all. Right? Okay. Now, this article, I'm showing y'all the receipts. So bear with you, brother. I know it's late. I know it's late. Some of y'all is past your bedtime. But just bear with you, brother. Okay? Now, Dr. Marola, it's definitely past your bedtime. Okay. Now, this particular one, right, is called, this is by communicative and integrative biology, right? the society of our out of Africa ancestors, right? I'm going to repeat that again. The title is called The Society of Our Out of Africa Ancestors, the Migrant Warriors That Colonized the World. Okay? The Migrant Warriors That Colonized the World by Eduardo Moreno. Right? Eduardo Moreno. So the question is, why did he give this scholarly work a title like this? You know, ending it with the migrant warriors that colonized the world, right? Listen what he has to say about this L3 group. It kind of shocked me last night reading it. Okay, I'm going to start off reading the abstract. The Out of Africa hypothesis proposes that a small group of Homo sapiens left Africa 80,000 years ago, spreading the mitochondrial haplogroup L3 throughout the earth. Little effort has been made to try to reconstruct the society and culture of the tribe that left Africa to populate the rest of the world. He's saying that this particular group, this particular mitochondrial haplogroup populated the rest of the world. Listen to what he's saying. Because there's no coincidence that the messenger said that we the mothers and fathers of civilization. Right? I'm showing you through the DNA genetic footprint. Okay. He said, little effort has been made to try to reconstruct the society and culture of the tribe that left Africa to populate the rest of the world. Here I find that hunter-gatherers that belong to mitochondrial haplogroups L0, L1, and L2 do not have a culture of ritualized fights. Right? They don't have a culture of ritualized fights. Why would he say that? Right? In contrast to this, almost all L3 derived hunter-gatherers have a more belligerent culture that includes ritualized fights, such as wrestling, stick fights, or head hunting expeditions. I'm going to repeat that. In contrast to this, almost all L3 derived hunter-gatherers have a more belligerent culture that includes ritualized fights such as wrestling, stick fights, or head hunting. This appears to be independent of their environment because ritualized fights occur in all climates from the tropics to the Arctic. There is also a correlation between mitochondrial haplogroups and warfare propensity, or the use of murder and suicide to resolve conflicts. Right? Now, when we think about it, and the question is, are there any black people or any people that can relate to this group of people, right? Who has a propensity for warfare and ritualized fighting, like wrestling and stuff like that, and people who use murder and suicide to resolve their conflicts. So if I have the understanding that we are the direct descendants from this particular ancient group over in Africa, then when I look at my people here in the hills and wilderness of North America, we are fighting ass people. We love to fight, especially one another. You know, ritualized fighting, How about gangs and putting people on gangs? You know, you got to get put on. You got to fight a group of people just to claim a gang. We love boxing and martial arts, you know, and and the scripture says that there's a lion asleep in Judah. There's a lion asleep in Judah. Right? We constantly at war, but not, and we use murder now in 2019. Black people, we use murder to resolve our conflicts. Right? So let me continue reading because this messed me up reading this. Okay. The data implicate that the original human population outside Africa is descended from only two closely related sub-branches that practiced ritual fighting and had a higher propensity towards warfare and the use of murder for conflict resolution. So when you think about it, right, when you think about it, you know, we know that Yaqub lived 20 miles outside of Mecca, right? And he took a group of these Arabians and took them on the island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea. That's over by Greece. And he created a whole new people. And guess what? The people that he created, who are our sons, this brand new people is also a warlike people, right? Who went out the Asiatic world conquering through murder and bloodshed, through warfare. Yeah, Brother Josh Mason, I know that there's a difference between tribal warfare, right? Tribal conflicts and genocide. I know there is a major difference, but at the same time, we cannot forget that we created the devil. So whatever that's in them came out of us. So we can't forget that. According to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the devil, right, or this white man is the physical manifestation of the evil that was inside of the original man and just given its own form. Correct? So let me continue. Right. So let me continue. This warfare culture may have given the out of Africa migrants a competitive advantage to colonize the world, but it could also have crucially influenced the subsequent history of the earth. In the future, it would be interesting to see how we could further reconstruct the society and culture of the out of Africa tribe. Okay, hold on one second. Because I want to read the parts that are relevant to the conversation. And again, if you want to read the whole thing, walaikum salam, Brother T.Y. Okay, if you want to read the whole thing, I'm going to let you see what the name of the article again. I just want to stick to the key points. Okay. Using the genetic mitochondrial haplotypes as an evolutionary framework, I have studied the pattern of ritualized fights, archaeological and ethnographical evidence for warfare, or the use of murder and suicide as a mean for conflict resolution, right? And that's what many of us need today. That we need brothers to go into our communities to be able to do conflict resolution on behalf of our people, because the only conflict resolution that we know is to kill one another. You know what I mean? And that's not the only way to solve our problems, right? Archaeological and ethnographical evidence for warfare, or the use of murder and suicide as a mean for conflict resolution among several tribes of modern hunter-gatherers throughout the world. This allowed the reconstruction of cultural evolution superimposed on current genetic and migratory data. The evidence presented suggests that a tribe of belligerent people, possibly warriors, populated the earth out of Africa, right? The minister said that young black men and women here in America are natural born warriors, right? Who, especially the gangs. He said these are the natural born warriors, right? Who are just misguided, who need guidance. And this is the army, right? This is the dry bones that the enemy does not want to be resurrected, right? Because Islam has the ability to bring out the militancy and the warfare propensity out of the black man, of the original man. And this is why they didn't want Islam to reach the shores of America, right? But let me continue. The evidence presented suggests that a tribe of belligerent people, possibly warriors, populated the earth out of Africa. Furthermore, the data implicate that the original human population outside of Africa is descended from only two closely related sub-branches of L3 that practiced ritual fighting and probably had a higher propensity towards warfare and the use of murder for conflict resolution. This may have crucially influenced the subsequent history of the world. Okay? Okay. Now, the dude said, I will focus here on the archaeological and ethnographical evidence for warfare, the use of murder and suicide as a means for conflict resolution, or the practice of ritualized fights, right? So what he has a chart, right? And in the chart, he's going to show you the group of people who are a part of these groups. Okay? African hunter-gatherers. Among the African foragers, the Jew or Honsai or Kong of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia have been shown to carry the most basal mitochondrial DNA haplogroup L0. Okay? And table 1 are therefore the best choice as being considered an ancestral state with regards to human behavior. Kung do not gather for ritual fights and prefer dance and storytelling as pastimes. Among the Kung, murder and suicide are also uncommon, and conflicts are normally eased with humor or avoiding contact. However, some physical fights do occur. Finally, although the Kung are generally a peaceful society, they can resort to war in order to defend their territory. And there is evidence that this also has been happening in the past, because there are rock paintings depicting Kung Bushmen fighting. In general, Kung men prided themselves on being good hunters. Right? Okay. Now, this is a graph of the hunter-gatherers right here. And on your right, you have the L3 with the two subclades, the subgroups of L3, right, who have a propensity for warfare and murder and suicide as conflict resolution, right? Here's a graph. It says ritual fights among hunter-gatherers. In the red, you have fighting rituals, right? And they point out the locations where these people are. You have non-fighting rituals. The majority of them are in Africa, right? The more peaceful people, right? The more peaceful people. Right, you have ethnographical and archaeological evidence of war, and again, war in red, no wars in green. Right. So basically, what he's saying that the L3, peace to you, brother. Walaikum salam, brother Ricky. What he's saying is the L3 gave birth to these other groups who are warlike people, right? Who are warlike people. The African L3 mitochondrial DNA, the African haplogroup, right, was a warlike people, and when they spread, they took their same rituals and behavior, and that spread among and went with those people that came up under them, right? So let me read some of these articles. Now you have this table right here, table 1. It says tribes of hunter-gatherers analyzed in this study, right? And you have the people in the geographical location. You have the hunter-gatherer tribe, right? And you have the people. You have the tribes on the left and where they are, right? And I'm not gonna read all of them. Again, I'm gonna let you have the name of this, and you can find it yourself. But you on here on this chart, they show you, they do a comparison. They show you the groups, the tribes that are in Africa are more peaceful, and in this chart they show you the ones that the non-African tribes are more warlike, right? But it's one African tribe that was more warlike than all the rest of the African tribes, right? But this is a chart. It's showing you, as an example, you have the Cheyenne of the Dakota, right? And it says, yes, they were warriors. Training to fight was a major activity. Yes, murder during endemic war and ritual sacrifices promoted by the chiefs. Yes, endemic war with neighboring tribes, right? And yeah, so they go. It's a list of the names of all the non-African groups who were more warlike than others, right? But what I'm saying is, as a scholar, right, what I'm saying is that is a good, well, I'm not going to say it's a good chance. I know this based on my research that many so-called African Americans have the mitochondrial DNA haplogroup L3 in our DNA, along with other admixtures of L1 haplogroup, L2, L3, L4, We have many different admixtures in us, right? But the L3 is the majority of all the other haplogroups, right? Here's another map. So what I'm saying is, what I'm proposing is, hold on, I don't know what happened. Okay, what I'm proposing is that if these people, what I'm proposing is that if these people, L3, basal, right, are our ancestors, and we are direct descendants of these ancient people, right? And they were a warlike people, went out conquering wherever they went in ancient times. What I'm saying is that the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, right? Because we have the same type of behavior and spirit, but we use that energy against one another. Okay, we can see that, yeah, we are natural warriors. You know what I mean? Like, when you see our people, we crazy as hell. We love fighting, man. We some fighting ass people. We just don't fight the right people. You know what I mean? We don't fight the right people. Okay, well, that's enough of that particular that's enough of that particular article. There's another one I wanted to show. The predominance of the L3 mitochondrial haplogroup, and I had it up. It was like a graph. It was a graph, and I probably have to look for it because I can't find it. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty late. I'm not gonna keep you all late tonight. But again, the mitochondrial DNA is the DNA that is passed down from mother to daughter, and the mitochondrial DNA is, hold on, excuse me. The mitochondrial DNA is predominant, is the dominant haplogroup out of all the haplogroups. The main one is the L3 mitochondrial DNA that is located originally 50,000 years ago, around 50,000 years ago, in Egypt, Arabia, and even Eurasia. It spread that far. Okay? And eventually traveled back into the jungles of Africa or East Asia and spread out through there throughout Africa. Right? Many of them spread to Central Africa and West Central Africa, where many of our ancestors from the transatlantic slave trade were taken from. Okay, and I showed that in the original video, the very first video. Okay, so do I personally believe that we are the tribe of Shabazz? Hell yeah, I do. Absolutely. Absolutely, because the only way, if we don't have physical written manuscripts and documents or tablets or papyrus, what is the best way and the most accurate way that we can probably determine who who we truly are, in my opinion, is through our very own DNA. You know, and I don't believe that our DNA, our genetics lie. I think men lie and women lie, but genetics or numbers certainly don't lie. You know, and it has to add up. Okay, it has to add up. Okay, so it's pretty late. If anybody got any questions, if I left anything out, just let me know, cause there were other things that I did wanted to share, but because of the time I might not be able to. Got to be up a little early in the morning. But I wanted to make sure I made my word bond that I was going to do this video. Because, you know, I mean, we got a lot of these pseudos out here who would like to attack the Nation of Islam and what we believe, but they are going on the basis of, we believe in the myth. You know, we believe in the fairy tale. You know, and this and what we believe cannot be proven. Okay, they don't believe what we teach cannot be proven. You know, and again, like I said in the very beginning, that's why it is the duty of the followers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to prove these teachings true. To prove these teachings true through what? Science and mathematics. Science and mathematics. You know, I mean, now as I do more research in the future, I'm gonna have a handle on this whole topic by, you know, without even, I don't need no notes now, tell you the truth, to actually talk about it and teach on it, but I like to pull up different notes and stuff so y'all can see it yourselves, and you can go back and you can watch this video. But man, I wish I had some of the notes that I had on here last night, but for some reason, all of my stuff wasn't on here, man. But again, I'm not gonna hold you up too long. I'm just in conclusion to this portion of the video of this video, is that there was a people 50,000 years ago, right, who live in the same locations that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad described, right? But his language was different from the language of these scientists and these biologists, right? I don't agree 100% with their language, right? but I see what they're saying and where they're trying to go with the information based on their research. I understand it. And there are certain aspects of their own research that I can honestly see that they don't really have a full, thorough knowledge, understanding of what they're researching. And I believe that if they heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they would be shocked that a man with a third grade education had knowledge of this and was teaching this information, okay, from the rostrum to his followers. I really believe that they would be shocked if they heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how their research paralleled what he taught. And so I believe, according to this research, because I got one more part, and that's the paternal aspect of the Shabazz story, right? I believe that this macro haplogroup L3, who was in the Nile Valley region of Egypt, who was in Arabia, I believe there was also in East Africa at some point, and also they spread out as far as Eurasia. I believe that this group, like the messenger taught, traveled into Central Africa and spread through Central Africa, through the Sahara, all the way to West Central Africa, even some of South Africa, North Africa, just spread throughout Africa. And I believe these people were scooped up during the transatlantic slave trade, like the teachings, like the Bible says in Genesis 15:13. When God was talking to Abraham and said, "Know of a surety, Abraham, that thy seed will be that thy seed will be a stranger in a strange land among a strange people for over 400 years." He said, "Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed will be made captive and taken to a strange land among a strange people for over 400 years." And then you have in Deuteronomy 28, it specifically says that God's people will be taken on ships to the land of Egypt. So when you look at America and the way that the social structure of America is built, or we can say white supremacy, it is built like a pyramid system, okay? And the wickedly wise and who's at the top built the system that is designed to keep the bottom class or the poor, right? So we are living in modern day Egypt, modern day Babylon, right? Modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. These are prophetic utterances. This is divine revelation that was given to us by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad by way of Master Fard Muhammad, and them raising up a servant among us today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have been given divine revelation. Now, just because it's divine revelation doesn't mean that it cannot be proven to be true and right and exact. And that is our job, to prove that this divine revelation is truly God's revelation. And that's what I intended to do with this whole presentation on the tribe of Shabazz. Okay, so I appreciate you, family, for tuning in. Peace to you, Sister Hairstyles Bayona. And I appreciate my brothers and sisters for tuning in, tapping in, share this video, put this information out. and vet the sources, rewatch the videos, look at it, and do the research on your own, and see what you can come up with. But I know that the more that I research this information, um, the more information begins to come out, the more I learn regarding this information. The more I learn regarding this information. So, this is your brother, the one and only, Malcolm Flex TV. Man, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all, man. We out. Assalamu alaikum.